You little stupid ass bitch, I ain't fucking with you. You little dumb ass bitch, I ain't fucking with you. I got a million trillion things I'd rather fucking do than to be fucking with you. Little stupid ass, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, bitch. I don't give a fuck about you or anything that you do. Don't give a fuck about you or anything that you do. I heard you got.
Hey, it's Saleh, and this is episode 465 of the Orange Pill Investor. And I've been having a little bit of a kind of like reigniting the discussion around Bitcoin Core and knots. And it's kind of funny because the Bitcoin is down, strategy is down, so everybody wants to bitch about the revised guidance or the fucking ATM or whatever. But meanwhile, there's like a credible attack on Bitcoin, and I don't want to say nobody gives a fuck. Some people definitely do. There's still some folks worried about it, concerned about it, talking about it. Matthew Kratter is probably, well, I'm subbed to all of his stuff, so he's either one of the most vocal or it's just one of the ones that's getting put across my feed the most. What's up, Junk? And been having some offline discussions, some text battles and all of that stuff too with some people that I like and respect. And one of the things that I thought about the other day was if the filters don't hurt spammers, then why does Bitcoin Core want to disable and disable the filters to help spammers? I know they're saying that they're just kind of like throwing their hands up and saying we can't beat the spammers, so we'll just try to move them over here and let them spam in this section over here. But that just doesn't make any sense. And the other one was that people say, well, you know, I run a node and I don't really see any problem with spam. But if if a lot of people have older core code or are running knots, then it sounds like the current filters are working. Why would we want to fuck that up? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So this pull request, was it Bitcoin? Is it version 30 or something? Anyway, whatever they're going to come out with next is going to reset the defaults. And as far as I can tell, they're going to blow open the spam filters. And I think the other main point, and then I'll get off my soapbox, is the people who argue for core and say that if people want to pay the transaction fee for spam, that's all that matters, and that the incentives are just the fees and that everything will kind of work itself out. And they have a little bit of almost like a First Amendment kind of free speech attitude towards it. And that the only thing that matters is the sender and the receiver and what the sender is willing to pay. That's got a couple of problems with it, because if that was all that mattered, then why do we need the nodes? If all you need is a sender and a receiver, and the sender wants to send someone something and the receiver wants to receive it, why do the nodes even exist? Why do they have to validate the transaction in the first place? Oh, maybe because they're a neutral party and they're the only ones that can be fucking trusted to validate whether it's a valid transaction or not. So maybe they should have independence and autonomy to decide which transactions to relay or not, and decide for themselves what they think is spam and what kind of shit they want to store on their hard drive. But anyway, the free speech argument, the free market argument is bogus as well, because the reason why, well, potentially, if filters, if people are saying, they don't really notice that much bloat, and so if the filters are actually doing something now, it's because that in order to include the spam, they've got to go to this is just my personal opinion, but they have to go to shitty shitcoiners, mining companies like Mara, pay a bunch of money to get them to include the block, because there's a risk. There's an added risk of submitting that, because now there's a potential, and maybe it's even just a fraction of a second, but when all of these mining companies are trying to win the next block and get the 300 grand, whatever the hell it's worth now, if you add this spam to the transaction, and there's even the slightest chance that you could lose a tie to another miner that didn't include a shit spam, a shitty freaking JPEG, that's what causes the cost of the spam to be higher. So if you remove, and you just basically say, well, we're going to remove the cost penalty for spam, now you're not just letting the free market do what it wants, you are introducing a barrier to true to the true cost of what spam should cost. So you don't want spam to cost less, you want spam to cost more, so that the spammers can get driven out of the market by the disincentive of that mining company potentially missing out on that transaction. So if those mining companies like Mara can just get the next block anyway, then they can start charging less and less and less for the spam transactions, which is the opposite of the free market. The free market is supposed to disincentivize scammy behavior, because there's an opportunity cost. But Core wants to remove that opportunity cost, which just I don't see how there's any other way to look at it, that's not, if you're either disincentivizing spam, or you're you're not disincentivizing spam anymore, or you're incentivizing spam. I don't know which is the better way to look at it. But I said I was going to hurry up and get off my soapbox, and then ranted for another 5 minutes. But anyway, moving on. We'll check chats, and then we'll actually look at the fucking price, which is down in the shitter. I guess I missed out on 10 o'clock this morning. We were down to 320 something. Brutal. What's up, Kanal? Dana, I'm going to hug you in New York. Are you threatening me? Let's see. Luke Dasher says ordinals are how central banks can mark coins, CBDC. Yeah, that's another thing, I guess. They want to be able to like put ordinals and like mark the Bitcoin and look like we've got good Bitcoin and bad Bitcoin. But like, I don't want to call it like money laundering, but if you had some bad Bitcoin, could you ever cleanse it? Like, then the government would probably charge a fee. Like, oh, if you want to have your dirty Bitcoin cleansed, pay us a fiat tax. It's almost kind of like speeding. It's not that speeding. It's not that the government cares if you speed. As long as you're willing to pay the speeding ticket, you can speed all you want. I guess until your points get to a certain level. But if you're willing to pay the speed tax, You can just speed. So it's not that it makes anything more dangerous. With maybe it does, but yeah, government is hilarious. Which it's kind of funny. The centralization and fiat tax mining from some of these, speeding and everything else. It just kind of reminds me of the oh god, reminds me of the spam. If you want to pay your spam tax tomorrow, you're welcome to. But of course, if we just get rid of the spam tax, I mean, how could the spam not increase? Bitcoiner says the burden of proof is always on the group that are trying to change the code. Bitcoin want to change things. The default should always be to change nothing. Yeah. I don't know if you're an Ossify, in the Ossify camp. I think I am. And I think Sailor said as much too. I got to go back and look and see if there was some kind of controversy between him and Core. People were trying to spread some kind of rumor that he was trying to influence Core or whatever. But in one of his interviews, he said that he thought that we should just leave the code how it is and like fix the bugs. So he seems like an Ossify guy, and that's kind of where I'm at. What's up, Buffalo? All right, so I was saying yesterday that I hope support holds, right? We've got a couple of support levels. So we've got 250. To a lesser extent, we've got like basically what we're looking at right now, like 340. What is this number? Yeah, approximately 300. So if we can't hold on to 300, then we probably hit 250. If there's any silver lining to revisiting 250 again, is that would at least form a nice double bottom, hopefully. And then maybe we could go vertical from there. So, they say sell in May and go away. And I asked in the comments, well, when do they come back? And somebody was saying basically around Labor Day, which kind of makes sense. All the kids are back in school. All the summer vacations are over. And Labor Day is basically seen as like the last real summer day. I think most kids go back to school in like mid-August though. So maybe the parents just stay home longer and twiddle their thumbs or whatever. But if that's the case, then the next 2 weeks could be brutal for Strategy's price. But at the same time, brutal for who? Because I was just doing some math, and even this spike to 500 and something a share, that's still all bullshit. Like nobody bought at 500 plus because the close was at 397. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Nope, can't. This says it opened. Actually, it says it opened at 535. So maybe it did. Did it have a? Well, no, that's no way because it. Let's see, November 20th. Okay, so it closed at 473. So somebody could have bought the absolute top at 473 before it closed. I'm guessing 99% of people are not buying more shares after hours while it's careening up to, what was it, 543? 543 was the high right here, but the close was at 400. So if you're trading in regular hours, you might have bought in at 473 or 400 on the 20th or the 21st. If you bought in at 400, you're only down 15%. Now, it would be a little bit worse if you bought at 473. Let's look at 473 minus current price is 340. That would be much worse divided by 473. So you're down. Ooh, that is kind of bad. So if you just never owned a strategy position and then you FOMO'd the fuck out of it on November 20th, 2 seconds before close, and you bought at 473, like, you're the only person that has any right to complain because you're down 30%. But what was Bitcoin on November 20th? Bitcoin November 20th. We're going to close 98. So you would actually be up. If you bought on November 20th instead, and you bought at 98, you'd be up 10%, 15%. Yeah. So if you bought strategy on November 20th, five seconds before the close, instead of buying Bitcoin, you're the only person who should really be complaining. But at the same time, who the fuck are you complaining to? Because you literally bought a leveraged Bitcoin play in the middle of the worst FOMO imaginable. So is it really up to strategy to hurry up and pump your position, or is that a lesson learned? not to FOMO into things. But yeah, even at 340, the only other times that you would be able to be underwater at 340, like this pump, you're still good. You know, maybe you FOMO'd again here at 386. You could FOMO in here at 400. You could have FOMO'd in here. Like, I mean, literally, if you went out of your way to buy the top every fucking time it went up, you could potentially be losing money right now. That's literally the only way. Because everywhere else on this chart, everywhere before November, if you bought in, you know, even if you bought the dip in November, for God's sake, you're still at break even, or pretty close to break even. If you bought any of these dips, you're good. If you bought any of this sideways action, you're good. Or if you bought any of these dips, you're good. But if you bought 1, 2, 3, 4, if you bought any of the 5 tops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. If all you ever did was buy into any of the 5 tops and you never dollar cost averaged into any of the any of the dips, if you only bought the tops and never bought the dips, you could be losing money right now. That's basically the only way. Or you've been buying calls like I've been doing. So yeah, so my account is down, bigly, because I've got a metric fuck ton of leverage. So all of these positions down big time. Even the poor man's covered calls that I put together, the long calls are down. Probably have not collected enough on the short calls to make up for it. But as long as we don't go down below 300 and stay there, I'm not really worried about the poor man's covered calls positions, at least through end of the year. Because I trade it in and out of my shares, I actually have a relatively high trade price. I will sell some of my shares below cost basis to add in some leverage positions. And then when strategy's price is high, I will actually exit the leverage positions and add shares. So that sounds a little bit counterintuitive to a certain extent, because I'm doing what you shouldn't do, and I'm selling my shares cheap and I'm buying shares at a higher price, but that should be outweighed by the benefits of buying leverage at a discount and then selling leverage at a higher price. Like the money that I'm making on the long calls by buying the dips on the long calls should outweigh the fact that the other day I think I sold 100 shares at like 340, 350, something like that, which is below my cost basis. The way that I'm doing it, I think this is fine because I don't have any dry powder. If I had a regular job and I had like, oh, okay, my employer deposited $2,000 for my paycheck, and I'm like, okay, well now what am I going to do with this $2,000? If I had $2,000 of fiat dry powder to buy dips with, then yeah, this would be completely backwards. I would just want to buy the dips, period. And then maybe sell the covered calls after the price runs up. Something along those lines. But because I don't have any money besides what I can create in the stock market, I've got my back up against the wall to a certain extent. Yeah, you're good unless you bought options. Exactly. Let's see. Buffalo says my brother's got approximately 30 shares. He picked up half of them at 480. At 240 in April, I told him to buy more. Oh God, of course he didn't. That's brutal. Classic fear, greed for him. You have to flip that mindset. Yeah. And like this stuff does make me nervous. The crashes do make me nervous. I try to come in here and be stoic or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I feel it too. Like, I mean, I was getting nice and pumped again when the price was 450. I was like, all right, cool. I don't regret quitting my job in December. And then now my account's probably down. Yeah, probably down 30% at least from just a few weeks ago. But maybe even worse than that is that when in November, I was like, the FOMO got the best of me to where I was finally like, convinced some friends and family to buy some strategy themselves. And so their cost basis is over 400. That was like what, 25% off all-time highs. But when you correct back down to 250, not only do I have to feel bad for my own account, but I'm like, can't show my face in public because the people that I told to buy strategy, when I do these videos, it's like not financial advice, but of course when I'm talking offline, I'm like, do it. Yeah. So I'm desperate for strategy to pump to 650, 8, 1,000, anything to where I can finally show my face without shame to people close to me that I talked into buying fucking strategy at 400 and something a share. Anywho, so it's down a bit more, but it's not down enough for me to need to move these positions. They've only been open for 1 day, so nothing really to do there. Same here. Would I love to be able to just dollar cost average into a bunch more of these positions? Yeah. Damn. That cough hit me so quick I couldn't even mute. Good Lord. But I'm just not ready to I don't really call tops and bottoms anyway. I guess I kind of do when I add leverage, but I'm not ready to say that this is capitulation right here. This doesn't feel pain. Like somebody posted a screenshot, I think when we hit 345 and they were like max pain or whatever. And I was like, max pain is a lot lower than this. Max pain would be way below the 200. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, why is the 200 moving? I'm sorry. The max pain would probably be around the 200. Oh, sorry. I don't have this up to date. I scrolled back. My bad. Yeah, max pain would be way down here. This is max pain area behind my stupid ass picture. Way down here. This is like so pain. This is like the day after leg day and you're a little sore. This would be like I threw out my back and now I'm at urgent care. Hopefully we don't have to hit these levels in order to ride the rocket ship back up, but you never know. Even a little bit more scary is that we've got support at 108. And we've got a fair amount of it. But if we crashed below 100 again, we'd probably be looking at 84. Our good friend 84. Actually, there's a decent amount of support here at 90. But we could flash below 90 and hit 84 for sure. Yeah. So hopefully all these Bitcoin treasury companies will continue to fucking smash by. I'm doing my part. My $25 DCA, me and my son buy on Fridays. Hopefully that'll be enough. All right, so I'm just gonna blast through these because there's nothing I'm gonna be doing today. It's down, but it's not like down enough to really move the needle on any of my covered calls that I sold. Yep, same as these. The weeklies, this is getting close. I could potentially, is today Wednesday? Yeah. I could potentially close these out. It's like getting close. But really like 118 or less would be 50% of the trade price. Yeah. Not worth the effort, I don't think. Same deal here. I've got a bunch of stuff. Not a bunch. I have a few things expiring on the 22nd. But that's about it. Yeah. So no trades. No trades needed. What's up, Deeply? Completely share your sentiments. Have a great rest of the day. Appreciate it. Dude face. We have fun, don't we? Just writing and rolling. No big deal. Yep, same shit, different day. Noble says, I love this price action. I love how bearish everyone is. Yeah, man. And with the revised guidance, I'm like, that's such a weak thing to be mad about, in my opinion. I'm sure we'll talk about it on True North tonight. But I actually prefer the revised guidance to the original. So I don't know what there is to be mad about. You can argue that it's a bad look, that no matter what the change is, whether it's a good change or a bad change, you can argue that changing it so quickly is a bad look. Like, oh, okay, they they should have noticed that they needed to leave themselves that out to begin with. But I didn't really like the original guidance, so I posted something, the meme from Office Space. We fixed the glitch. That's what I think about it. The revised guidance was basically they noticed the glitch, they fixed it, and so what do you want? You notice something that needs to be corrected. Are they just supposed to sit around and do nothing? Or should they fix it as soon as they notice it? Or like, oh, okay, well we just won't we'll wait a couple of weeks to fix it so that hopefully everybody forgets about it and the optics will look better. Like, no, just fucking fix it. Just get it over with. Rip off the band-aid and freaking get it over with. Is it embarrassing, and is it just giving the Bears one more thing to fucking complain about? Yes, but I don't care. How many Bears are you letting in the True North building tonight? I'm sure they will be in the comments. As long as people keep it respectful, you can be a fucking bear in the comments. Like, we can take it. It's not a problem. But some people are just like, good lord, they get a little uppity. Let's see, Noble. Josh Mann made a lucky call, and that's all he's got. He's wrong about everything else, including 444. You have to believe he is Christ if you think he's right. Um, yeah, I would say it's beyond luck, but I think you're right in that people are looking at they're looking at it as binary. They're saying, okay, he nailed this, and they're saying, okay, well, it's either luck or he looked at the charts and predicted it, or he looked in uh, he remembered the whatever the book that described the timeline or something. And those are the only two things that can happen: is either he got lucky or he absolutely nailed it, and now you have to believe everything that he says, right? People are operating under those two, that kind of binary. But there could be a million different reasons that he was able to get it right that don't require either luck or blindly listening to everything that he says from here on out. So it blew my mind. Yeah, I was just like, holy shit, that's impressive. But at the same time, that doesn't mean I'm gonna like turn notifications on his account and try to copy trade him, right? Like, I don't have the skill to do it, first of all. And even if he posted his trades 10 seconds after he made them, would I see the notification and be able to jump on it and do the exact same thing? I might not get the same prices. Anyway. And that's just me talking out loud. I don't know if people are copy trading him or not, but I'm not necessarily going to just take all of that as gospel, because the information might not be something that I even have the skill to act on anyway. So he could be completely right about everything, but I just might not be fast enough or good enough to replicate and get the same results as he's getting. And, like I certainly sure as hell didn't follow him into the gold. I don't know, he was buying gold or some shit. Um, I think Bitcoiners and gold bugs are aligned in spirit against monetary debasement, but I haven't invested in gold. Back when I was just a pure options seller before I kind of became a laser-eyed Bitcoiner, I would trade anything with premiums. And yeah, so I haven't really fucked with gold since October of 2022. Not because there aren't opportunities here, but it's just not Bitcoin. It's not related to Bitcoin. It's not a Bitcoin treasury company that holds Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So I basically just gave up on everything that's not Bitcoin. I hope he made some money on GLD or whatever he was into, but I didn't follow him into that trade just because he was right about something. Like, I don't know the first thing about investing in GLD, so I'm just not going to bother. I'm going to stick to the things that I at least know a little bit, and even trading within my own skill set or toolbox is still not, still does not insulate me from losses. Right? This is the 5K account challenge. And, way back here I had 5 grand, and then at some points I had less than 5 grand, right? So it's not number go up technology. Had this account up as high as 30 something. If I had just gone to cash, then I would have saved myself from turning 30 grand back into 8 and then back into 20, back into 25, and now back down under 28, or yeah, down to 15 again, 16, whatever. So if I had a crystal ball and I knew that this was the top, I could have exited all my leverage positions and avoided this. But being up 3,000 on a, from going from 5 grand to 8 grand over September, it's like 6 months. So even at the worst, this account has done over like a year period, being up 60% from 5 grand to 8 grand. Is that right? 3/5? Yeah. Being up 60% is still a hell of a lot better than the S&P 500. So even like bumfuggling and not selling the top and riding it all the way back down to 8 grand is still being up 60% in a year. So like the worst accusation that, that this strategy would be guilty of is being up 60% in a year. And really, this type of shit being up 6x in 6 months is not realistic anyway. So you should be happy if you can get these results, of course. But this kind of blow off top that we had in strategy in November is like, I don't know, that was probably at least a 3 standard deviation move. And that was not, I don't want to say it's once in a lifetime, but MSTR. It's definitely like, in this bull market, it only happened twice the whole year. So we had, out of 12 months, we had 1 in March and we had 1 in November. That's all you get. In this 12-month section of the bull market, you had 2 chances to take advantage of your long calls, if you had any. You might have been able to hit each of these. If you missed this one and you were smart enough to hit this one or this one, maybe you could find another little spot to exit. But you probably didn't, because when you missed this one, now you're just going to think, when we get back to all-time highs again, you're like, oh, well, now it's going to 400. Now it's going to 500. So you're probably not going to have the balls to exit these tops. And you're just going to hodl. And so then, there's really no excuse for missing these three tops. There's no excuse to miss this top unless you're FOMOing into 1K strategy price like I was doing. So yeah, clearly I can't give financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor, but unless you think this is a super cycle and the 4-year cycles are over, how many more bites at the apple do you expect the market to give you? For me personally, I'm giving the market like one more chance to pump my bags before I exit all of my leverage positions. We'll see what my overall account value looks like at the end of 2025, maybe end of January 2026. I will probably keep somewhere between minimum probably 1,000 shares of strategy. I will be willing to hodl through a bear market. Maybe more. We'll see. Regardless of strategy's price, I should be able to generate plenty of cash to support myself, no matter how many shares I take into a bear market. I mean, unless the price crashed 90%, that might leave a mark. But yeah, call buyers. I mean, how many more chances do you think the market owes you to exit your long positions? Like, it's okay to take a quick 10, 20, 30, 40% pump. I know everybody wants to 10x their shit. But if you don't have a good track record of timing these tops, I don't know, maybe sell a little early. If you miss it and realize, oh, fuck, I missed it, then, maybe get the bounce after the correction. Maybe get this bounce after the correction. I have felt comfortable plowing more and more cash into the 1080s because it's all money that I've created from selling short to begin with. So even if I lose all of my 1080s, like 100% of it, they were all purchased with the money that I used selling the covered calls in the first place. So I will have wasted my time, and it will all have been for nothing, but I'll still have all the shares that I started out with. So the worst that you could say is that, okay, idiot, you spent an hour a day for 365 days in a year. Well, I guess 5 days a week. So 250 hours I spent making these fucking videos, and I just end up with the same amount of shares at the end than I started with. But worst case scenario is that I paid for the 1080s with the profits that I collected off the covered calls in the first place. So the worst that I can do is just be right back where I started with the number of shares. I know some people get enamored with the poor man's covered calls as soon as they realize, holy shit, for the price of 100 shares, I can sell 2 covered calls. They're just like, oh yeah, this is, I'm all about it. While it is true that there's a lot of capital efficiency with the poor man's covered calls, you have to be careful because I got enamored with the poor man's covered calls end of 2022. End of 2021. So here's the Robin. I was trading almost exclusively in the Robinhood account, making a bunch of money. Yay, yay, yay! Here's my portfolio. I made like 170 grand or something in a year and a half with the poor man's covered calls. Fed raised interest rates, and I had most of my PMCCs in Tesla. And within November, December, January, I lost all of the profits that it took me a year and a half to make. So poor man's covered calls are great in a bull market, but they are absolutely just devastating. And so I didn't realize that the leverage would collapse in value this quickly. And right about here, I kind of dusted myself off and I was like, okay, let me just reboot and recalibrate. I was basically back to where I started, right? And then kind of, I think I moved most of my money over to Tasty Trade during this period here. And then at some point, I sent some money back over, probably for the 5K. I had a little bit of cash in here, but then I was like, all right, let me do the 5K challenge. That was like March 2024. So that's when I really started trading Robinhood heavily. I don't want to say heavily, but like more frequently is the correct word. Right around March, I put in exactly 5 grand. I can't exactly hit it, but anyway, it's right in here somewhere. And so from here to here has been the 5K challenge. But yeah, poor man's covered calls are great when the number's going up, but this is what your account can do in a very short period of time if the number stops going up. So that's just a fair warning. Dudeface says, I like how Jeff put it on X. This was an experiment, tested, and result not proven yet. The strategy experiment, period. And then in Josh's defense, he often claims biblical prophecy to support his hypothesis. There's that. Yeah, he did come right out and say, he's like, hey guys, I know some of y'all think I'm looking at the chart and figuring this shit out by drawing lines on a chart. And he's like, it's a little bit more spiritual than that. So he has warned people not to just follow him blindly without understanding that there's some woo-woo involved. Yeah, he hasn't really shied away from that. I think it's pretty obvious that anybody who follows him for any length of time knows that there's some otherworldly influences there. Looking forward to the chaotic chat of True North tonight. I've never seen so many clueless morons in one chat. Yeah. I mean, some of them are clueless morons, and some of them gotta be bots, because clueless morons will take the bait when you challenge them. They love the attention. And these people would just continue to shit post, but not directly address the people who are shouting them down. And only a bot would be that nonchalant. Like, trolls go to get reactions, but bots are not reveling in that trollishness, I guess. So they don't have the troll bots completely realistic yet. You know, like when you do AI images and the person has like 4 fingers, that's what the troll bots are. Like, they're good enough to say things that are provocative, but they're not attention whoring, like a true. Well, I guess the really good trolls will just drop a comment and exit the conversation and watch everybody else argue about it. That's like elite level trolling. But I guess it would be more like less trolling, but more like attention whoring. I think some people like to be attention whores and just be just create friction. So to go in and generate attention, but then not bask in the attention and kind of ignore it, seems bottish. But it's got to be a mixture of both. A little bit of clueless morons plus a sprinkling of bots. William says we shall see if Josh Man is right about strategy S&P inclusion soon. I am surprised since Hood and Coin didn't make it in the first round. So did he actually call it out that it's a lock for the first round? I know he said it was a lock, but I didn't know he put a time on it. I mean, I'm 100% convinced they'll get S&P 500, but I'm just not convinced they'll get it in the first round. Dan stated that the new strategy call option is STRF. I don't quite understand. Could you help explain what he means? Probably not. Because he thinks about that shit so much. I'm not sure if he even gets a moment's peace when he's awake or asleep. So he thinks very creatively and very mental exercisey about the prefs in a way that I don't. But let me just see if I can. So the new strategy call option is Strife. Okay, so my best guess is that because Strife sits at the top of the capital stack, they have first rights to the Bitcoin. So I think what he's saying there is that the sats that are getting stacked belong more to the STRF holders than the MSTR holders themselves. And maybe there's less reason to short it. And if you think that interest rates are going down, that's bullish for the stock as well. But I don't know. I'm not really, if I even understand it halfway, I'm not really swayed terribly in that direction. Unless the thesis that the whole point of the STRF holders was that they're willing to accept smaller returns for a safer investment. And the MSTR holders were supposed to get the arbitrage of the 10% appreciation on STRF, the difference between the 10% and Bitcoin's 30%, 50% CAGR or whatever. Unless that was all a mistake, then I'm not terribly moved by it. But anytime he says things like that, I have to pay attention because he's thought about it so intently. So I probably did a terrible job at explaining that. Dana says, I only like attention from my cats. Do they even give you any? Or do they only give you attention when they want attention? All right, so no trades. Bitcoin Core can go fork themselves. Hopefully it doesn't come to a fork. Ironically, I believe it was Luke Dasher, who's in charge of Bitcoin Knots, that was responsible for coding for the code that ensured that Bitcoin didn't need to fork during the SegWit upgrade. You could even, I don't even know if it's an upgrade necessarily, but I think that was part of SegWit in the first place. SegWit and Taproot, I believe the combination of those two was what enabled the spam to begin with. I would go so far as to call it a bug, not a feature. And we should be looking at ways to fix the glitch instead of enabling it. I know there was some initial hesitancy of like, oh, I don't want to do knots because there's only one guy running the whole thing. And as far as I know, he's got a team of devs now. And I don't know if someone's paying their salary or if they're just all volunteers. But that excuse is no longer valid, that it's just one guy. Apparently it is a team of developers now. And it's, you know, Knots is still 99% core. It's just, you know, keeping the code safe from spam is, I think, the focus of their edits. So, let's see. Dan also stated that STRF price would appreciate the most from the inclusion. How is that the case and not the common appreciating the most? Really? So, yeah, I'm going to have to go and find that tweet maybe, because that doesn't make sense to me at first look, because the passive inflows... Okay, let's think about this in order. The S&P 500 passive inflows. S&P 500 gets a big bucket of money to buy stocks. They start buying strategy, so that should pump up the strategy shares. Now, if the argument is that S&P 500 will increase the MNAV of the strategy shares, which is going to allow them to hit the ATM harder, which will put more Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and since STRF has first rights to that Bitcoin, that it's more accretive to the STRF shareholders than it is the strategy. But he didn't say it was more accretive. He's just saying that it's the STRF price would appreciate the most. You know, he had that really good chart. Actually, maybe it was Jeff. Anyway, some between Dan and Jeff, they had that really good chart on the episode where they were talking about what the bond market looks like. And there was a like pretend this was the line. There was like this little box right here where the price of the bond could actually appreciate faster. And I think since these prefs are new, there is potential for them to kind of appreciate up to their equilibrium. And then they're like, then they've kind of like reached their sweet spot. It wasn't exactly an S-curve adoption. I have to go back and watch the episode again, but it was pretty good shit. But I think the point is that when a new offering like this is reaching price discovery, the early adopters make way more money than the late adopters. So there could be an element to the market figuring out what STRF is actually supposed to be worth. And like, yeah, what if STRF goes up to 250, 300, 400 a share and stays there? Like people who bought in at 80, 90, $100 are going to have that 4x appreciation. And, you know, maybe strategy doesn't go up 4x in that same time frame. But let's just say that takes 6 months to a year, or, you know, whatever, 2 years for the market to figure out what STRF is supposed to be worth. Then at some point, STRF has reached its theoretical ceiling, and the only thing that's really going to change that would be the Fed lowering interest rates even further. So I think there might be some early adopter opportunities for people who get into STRF now that is not available to strategy holders of the common. But I think that's probably the way that I interpret that. But I don't think that would be forever. Once early adoption phase is over and STRF has kind of like found its price, yeah, we'll fluctuate with interest rates and to a certain extent Bitcoin's price. But at some point, I think strategy takes over again. So hopefully I got that right. But full disclosure, I don't own any of the prefs. So if that is the case, and over some short period of time, STRF has the ability to go up more than strategy, I guess I'll miss out on that boat. So I don't know if I just don't know how to use the chat, but if I click on your link, it just puts it on the display, so I can't actually even like click on that status. I could probably find it, but I'm not gonna make people sit through me digging through and reading that thing to try to figure it out. So, and you're welcome. All right, so I think he'll be on tonight. So maybe he'll talk about it. Who knows? All right, well caught up on the chats. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and be good, y'all. Run knots. Be good, y'all.